4 years after an Indian truck driver caused a massive accident, killing a mother and her son, fled the country, then evaded authorities, and now he will finally learn his sentence.
For at least 5, if not 10 years, truck drivers and heavy-duty vehicle operators in Quebec have been warning that there are serious problems in the industry. Those warnings were not taken seriously.
The driver Inc. phenomenon continues to plague Canadian roads. Behind every tragedy are families forced to fight for years to obtain justice. Today, one of the victims' relatives is speaking out about that fight. But first, here is a recap of what happened. On July 19, 2022, at approximately 10:30 p.m., Baljeet Singh was driving a heavy truck through a construction zone in Brossard near Montreal. As traffic slowed ahead of him, Singh failed to brake and slammed into several vehicles. Singh admitted in court that he was playing a game at the time of the collision. Court documents also indicate that he had been on the phone for more than 60 minutes talking with someone. The consequences were devastating. Several people were injured, while Nancy Lefrançois, 42, and her 11-year-old son, Loïc Chevalier, were killed. Following the collision, Singh was questioned by police and hospitalized. The next day, he was discharged, traveled to Toronto, and boarded a flight to New Delhi, India. Singh had originally arrived in Canada on a student visa. He was reportedly carrying a student card from Matrix College, a Montreal-based institution. Yet, at the time of the collision, he was apparently living in Brampton, Ontario, while holding a driver license issued in Nova Scotia. Try to understand that. It's crazy. The criminal charges and the arrest warrant was not issued until September 2023, more than a year after the tragedy. By then, Singh was already in the United States. In April 2023, just months after leaving Canada, he was intercepted at the southern US border and released with an order to appear. Thanks to Biden administration border policies. In May 2024, Singh was then granted a US work permit. It was not until October 2024, more than a year after the warrant was issued, and more than 2 years after the collision, that the Sûreté du Québec finally asked the US authorities if they had any information about him. The response came the following day. American authorities provided information connected to a visa application Singh had submitted in December 2022, less than 6 months after causing the fatal collision. In that application, Singh claimed to be working for Sunrise Freight Systems in an Ontario trucking company located near Brampton. But when he fled Canada, he had been working for the Harman Group. So how is that possible? Singh was eventually located in Sacramento, California in November 2024. He wasn't arrested until August 21st, 2025, before being extradited to Canada. At the time of his arrest, he was reportedly working for Amazon and was in the process of obtaining a Class A license to drive commercial trucks. This case is one example of the tragedies associated with the Driver Inc. phenomenon. Employment stories that are difficult to trace, licenses obtained in different provinces, and enforcement that sometimes comes only after lives have already been lost. I met with Nancy's mother-in-law who has been fighting for justice and trying to prevent another family from living through the same nightmare.
Well, on July 19th, Nancy left her home in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu to pick up Matisse in Sainte-Martine. There was a detour on Highway 30 because Highway 10 was closed, so traffic was being redirected through Boulevard Cousineau. There was a slowdown, and Mr. Singh never braked. He drove straight over Nancy's car, striking Loic first, who fell over his mother. Matisse was also in the crash. Benoit was in the crash as well. He was found outside the vehicle. Strangely, we could not understand how that happened because Benoit had been wearing his seatbelt. Matisse was pronounced dead at the scene, but she was resuscitated, thankfully, because otherwise we could have been burying 4 people that day. Then, in October, we learned that the man had left the country without facing any consequences. He was not detained in Canada, and his passport was not seized. After that, we learned that an extradition request had been made in April 2025. I was told that the extradition request had been submitted to another country, but I was not told which country.
2025?
Yes.
The incident happened in 2022, and the extradition request was not made until 2025.
Yes, exactly. Seemed there was a maternity leave taken in between. I don't know what happened with the case, but in my opinion, it ended up sitting on a shelf because if they had tracked the man's passport, he was already available in the United States when the criminal charges were laid here on July 13th, 2023. He was already accessible in the United States. So, if his passport had been tracked by the RCMP, Immigration Canada, or whichever agency should have been involved, I don't know which service should have been responsible, they could have located him fairly easily because he entered the United States illegally through Mexico.
In 2023?
Yes, in 2023, he left Canada and went to India. In December 2022, he applied for a work permit in the United States.
But what we learned, however, is that he was apprehended while he was in the process of obtaining another commercial driver's license in California. What do you think about that?
Honestly, does that surprise me? No, it doesn't, because driving is all they know how to do. But then again, can we really call them drivers?
He was also working for Amazon at the time.
Yes, exactly. When I asked the investigator assigned to the case what he was doing for work, she told me, I can't answer that. I said, well, if he had been a gynecologist, you would have told me. So I knew what he was doing for a living. He was still on the road. That means lives were put at risk in the United States. As police officers here, you failed to consider that he could kill other people. He entered the United States in April 2023, and the charges here in Quebec were not laid until July 13th, 2023. So there was time. No warning or red notice was issued. As a country, we can issue a red notice when a person is wanted, but one was not issued because no criminal charges had yet been laid. It took 1 year, less 3 days. He was charged with 2 counts of dangerous driving, causing death, and 3 counts of dangerous driving, causing bodily harm or injury. I continue to ask myself why Mr. Singh's passport was not seized for the duration of the investigation. That is why my petition to the House of Commons called for an amendment concerning the seizure of passports. To me, it makes absolutely no sense that someone can come here, kill people, and still be free to leave the country. It made no sense to me when I was told that seizing passports could cause prejudice to people who come here to work as temporary foreign workers. Mr. Singh originally entered Canada with student status, which was later changed to temporary foreign worker status. I was told that seizing their passports could cause them prejudice. I'm sorry, but we are the ones who suffered prejudice for 3 years before Mr. Singh returned to Canadian soil. Today, I am suffering another loss because my mother passed away last Saturday, and she will never hear the verdict in Mr. Singh's case. Why did I fight? That is another injustice I am suffering today, because Mr. Singh cowardly fled the country.
During Mr. Baljeet Singh's trial, he expressed remorse. Do you believe him?
Do you have another question that's easy to answer? No, we don't believe that at all. Because if the man had stayed at the scene, something similar happened in Ontario, where a family was devastated, but the man stayed. He faced what he had done, pleaded guilty, and admitted that he had been distracted by his cell phone. A grandmother and her two grandchildren, who were from Quebec, were killed in Ontario. He admitted his guilt and received 5 years in prison. It was all over social media, and we actually saw the crash happen. I genuinely felt that he regretted what he had done, even though he had broken the law. In our case, the man fled like a coward. And under the cover of anonymity, companies strongly encourage their truck drivers to leave the country. I even heard and saw information suggesting that his plane ticket may have been paid for by the company he worked for. We will accept whatever punishment and sentence he receives. The only justice we see in this is that indirectly he will receive a life sentence because he will never be able to work in the United States again. That is absolutely certain. And in theory, if we are not completely stupid, he should not be allowed to return here either. But let me have my doubts, okay? I am putting a major caveat on that. Did the Sûreté du Québec conduct a good investigation? I will never question that, but did they support us? When you read the extradition report, you see the 43 offenses and everything else. But was the case left sitting on a shelf? Did anyone try to move things forward and say, listen, we understand your pain. We are going to speed things up and take action? No. Instead, obstacles were put in our way. We were told, we don't know whether the federal prosecutor will accept the extradition request. There is no extradition process in place. Seizing his passport could prejudice him. He is entitled to take vacations. How much will it cost society to bring him back here? That is all we were told by the police, by the Sûreté du Québec. So, do I have any congratulations to offer them? No. But was the investigative work done? Yes. We were even asked to remain silent for a year until the Journal de Montréal called me a year later when the criminal charges were filed. The Journal de Montréal told me, listen, Mrs. Again, the criminal charges are public. You can either get on board with us or you can let the boat pass, and we will say whatever we want. And then I was told, and this was actually said to me by a lawyer, you know, Miss Seguin, Quebec is a province for assholes. If you want to kill someone, use your car. Don't use a knife. With a knife, you'll get 15 years. With your car, you'll serve 2.
Do you think this is a reasonable sentence?
Yeah, no. Do we think that is normal or reasonable? Not at all. And then there is the credit for pre-sentence custody, which counts as time and a half. This year, by September 11th, when the sentencing submissions take place, he will have been in custody for 1 year. So it will no longer count as 1 year, it will count as a year and a half. And a person is released after serving 2/3 of their sentence, even without good behavior. Otherwise, there is another form of release they may be entitled to. In any case, based on the research and everything else, with good behavior, he could be eligible for parole in September 2028.
Were you given any explanation as to why more charges were not laid based on other evidence? There is also the charge he was facing and presumably is still facing in Ontario.
Yes, because it had to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he had intentionally left the country. They had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that his departure was truly deliberate. No additional charges such as obstruction of justice were laid, even though we had to wait 3 years for him to be brought back to Canada. What this family has gone through is still quite exceptional. Unfortunately, other families will go through this because this is not the first case, and it will not be the last. To those who may experience something similar, know that there is strength in unity. I will always be there to help you through the process and to help you deal with the police, because it takes nerves of steel to face the justice system and the police. It takes time. It takes a great deal of courage and resilience. I don't know how else to say it, but it takes an enormous amount of energy, an unbelievable amount of energy to go through something like this.
And it all started under Trudeau government.
That's right. During an interview, I was asked whether Mr. Trudeau's departure affected me. Well, I said it in the interview, and I'll say it again. He has already dressed up as Aladdin, so he should get on a flying carpet and go join them. That is what I said in the interview. He is the resident clown. And as for Mr. Carney, don't ask me what I think of him, because there must be discretionary funds being handed out to him as well, because they are turning a blind eye. The Liberals are turning a blind eye to this. I do not wish death upon anyone, but when it is their child who is affected, extraordinary legislation will be passed within the following 24 hours.
You will be making some requests soon. Could you explain what those requests will be?
Of course, I am going to call for a public inquiry in Nova Scotia because, from what I understand, there is a scheme involving the purchase or use of addresses in Nova Scotia to get around criminal records in Ontario, since no interprovincial investigation is conducted. They provide a street address without an apartment number, which allows them to use the post office. I am certain that if you investigate, you will find that there was never a tenant named Baljeet Singh living there. After that, Nathalie Poulin, Claudia Boucher, and I will ask the Conservative Party to join us in seeking a reform of the so-called Payette law. As a society, we need to stop paying for people who make reckless choices, because that is what these people are. Whether drugs, alcohol, or anything else are involved, if you injure yourself, you are responsible for your injuries. If you die in the accident, I am sorry for the families, but I am not going to have compassion. We simply do not care.
Do you think the Conservative Party might also be hesitant to address this issue?
All the parties will probably be very hesitant and cautious because they do not want to be accused of racism. When we were at the House of Commons, Mr. Baljeet Singh Sarkaria, Ontario's Minister of Transportation, left the table while we were making our statements.
Do you think it's simply about racism, or is money also involved behind the scene? Is lobbying influence a factor?
It is both. There are several factors. They are afraid. Votes. They are buying votes. They are not doing this for us because those communities are starting to become the majority here.
I hope you enjoyed my report. You can chip in at rebelfieldreports.com if you want to support our independent journalism. Thank you in advance.